right. Good morning, everybody. We are excited to get things kicked off this morning with two amazing thought leaders in the sales development and sales space overall. We have Beck Holland, who is CEO and founder of Flip the Script, and Jeremy Donovan, who will be kind of the moderator of today, but he's the Senior Vice President of Sales Strategy and Operations at SalesLoft, who we all know as well. So we have a fantastic kind of topic for today with two amazing folks that I'm sure is going to, lead us through this. And, we're all here to learn as much as possible. And it's how to double your reply rates. So Beck the GOAT, we already got some comments for Beck. Cheering you up already. Pretty exciting.
She is the GOAT, no doubt. Pete, thank you.
They haven't heard what I have to say yet. So the compliments are pre-content.
And since Beck is the GOAT, I will mostly be moderating, although asking her questions, and I'm going to be moderating the chat here too. So if you guys have questions, throw it in there. So as Pete mentioned, we're going to be talking about how to double your reply rates. This is very much live and only not unscripted, I guess. But Beck and I did put together 3 different things we wanted to cover for you guys today. So just to give you a little roadmap here, we're going to talk about 3 types of hooks. We're going to talk about ego states and pattern interrupts. And if you've ever worked or heard Beck in any of her 35 hours of content on flipthescript.co, then she's got like acronyms and methodologies for everything. And then the last thing will be her objection matrix. So we're going to dive right in, spend a few minutes on the 3 types of hooks. Beck, I'm familiar with your sort of 5 buckets for personalization. What are the 3 types of hooks?
Yeah, so I have been on a tirade for probably the last 2 years on the personalization buckets. So I'm almost, I'm as tired of talking about them as you all are of listening to them. So I've usually done like self-authored content, engaged content, self-attributed traits, junk drawer, and company level for personalization. I know that was a blitz, but those are usually the 5 buckets. But the 3 types of personalization that I'm doing, number 1 is, and I'm going to rank these in terms of where I think you'll see, or where in my experience you'll see response rates. But the first one is problem-centric personalization. So this would be personalizing, and I'm defining personalization as one-to-one, meaning the minute that I can replicate that message to a second person, it becomes quote unquote relevance. So relevance is one to many, whether that many is 2 or whether that many is 20. But problem-centric personalization is if you solve for a problem, and I'll give you an instance of, I oftentimes solve for demo request response times in that entire process. And so what I'll do is I will, I've done this mid-cycle, requested a demo from the company that I'm selling into, and then requested a demo from their competitor, and documented my journey of follow-up from I've been a ghost shopper, and then presented it to them in the final presentation, and they're like, no, our demo request process is fine and our follow-up process is fine. And I'll say, well, let me just unpack a little bit of my experience whenever I tried to ghost shop, and it's jarring to them. So that would be problem-centric personalization of.
Would an example of that one also be like, I'm often more in buying mode than in selling mode. So right now I'm buying some tech to help us scale up our support organization without just having to hire more humans. So if somebody prospected me right now and said like, hey, are you having trouble scaling up your support organization without simply just hiring more people, would that be the problem-centric?
So that would be problem-centric relevance. But personalization would be your personalized observation that they are running into the problem.
Got it. Okay.
If a company's public, and this would require that it's an external facing element. So like sometimes, for instance, if I'm looking to push conversion rates for for SDR meetings booked for a non-public company, like I won't be able to test for problem-centric personalization. So this would require that it's an external facing either process or item that's public, but that is where you'll get viral responses of like, hey, I just noticed that, whatever, it took me 3 weeks to get a demo from your company. I don't know if you're churning users, but based on what I've seen, 75% of people requesting a demo aren't getting into an actual demo. Let's argue 35% aren't qualified. That means 40% of your users who you're spending all of the marketing to get interested are requesting to see your product and aren't because of process. If you give me a shot Thursday at 3 to unpack for 15 minutes, a couple of ideas on how you could quicken that, I promise I'll leave you alone if you're not impressed. You'll get viral responses in terms of that type of personalization.
So number one of the 3 hooks, problem-centric personalization. What's number 2?
2 is strong hook, and strong hook is going to be a dead-on tie, a dead-on hook of, let's pick the bucket, for instance, of the third one of self-identified traits within their About Me section for LinkedIn. Strong hook would be Jeremy talks about he's into sales strategy and data and optimization of sales process within his About Me section. And I sell something that, quickens, is more efficient for sales strategy, optimization, data. Like it's a dead-on tie of whatever they say whatever they're talking about, within their article or within their post or within their About Me section, you sell the services for that. So that strong hook of it's a dead-on hook.
Got it. Okay. And then what's the third one? And
then the third one's going to be light hook, and this one gets a little bit of beat up in the industry, dependent on whoever is putting their opinion in the hat. Some people like the idea of like a light hook. In my experience, I'll tell you what a light hook is, and then I'll give you my experience with it. Light hook is when you're doing a conceptual tie. So like Jeremy played basketball at Stanford, and I am likening that to, and I'm selling, a software like SalesLoft, and I'm likening that to what if you could turn all of your bench players into your starting lineup, by enabling them with the techniques that they should be practicing on and off the court.
I was hoping you'd use a cat metaphor, like always bonus points if you prospect me or talk to me about cats. You will that. So I want to hear Beck segue. I want to hear Beck segue me from like cats to whatever B2B stuff.
So funny. I would probably say, cats typically play hard to get, like your prospects. What if you make cats gravitate towards you by using the words that work on the call? Off the dome,
awesome.
Probably the angle that I'd be going. But I usually in light hook, I'm listing out in my mentally of the things that are true about, in this instance, cats, and the things that are true about SalesLoft. And then I would say, where's the commonality? And that's my hook. And this gets some beat up in the industry of some people, their opinion is, like, oh, well, it's not, it can be manipulative. And I'm like, look, I have no opinion. Some buyer personas tend to like it more than others. Usually you're more like marketers, disc profile eye, their capital is being creative. But I sell to a lot of technical buyer personas with the teams that I work with, and they really like it too. So point being, whether it's problem or strong hook or light hook, I have less of an opinion there, just that you're using one of them and one of the 5 buckets.
Well, what I love about your buckets thing, and I think it applies to the hooks thing, is basically it's a fallback. As you sort of try the number one, you fall back. So if you can't find a problem-centric thing that that the individual and their company have, then you fall back to something that they do. Like, yeah. I know you're focused on revenue strategy. We do stuff that helps you with revenue strategy, so you fall back to 2. And if you can't find that, then you talk about cats, but only cats and nothing else.
And to be honest, it's like the biggest toxic thing or the biggest mistake people make with personalization is they spend their cerebral calories wondering if they can do it or should they do it, or like, oh, there's nothing on this profile. I'm like, time out. Let me be very clear. No one's going to publish an article if you are, Vidyard, for instance, saying these are the top 5 reasons that I want to buy Vidyard. Like, right. That ideal world, yes, but like, we're here because this is an account that we don't have any, we don't have an in, right? And so I'm like, instead of spending your time justifying whether you should do it or quote unquote whether you should scale it, I'm like, I can scale it. I've done it 1,000 times. People will bring me profiles And on the spot, I'll just scour through and I'll show them. And these are profiles that they're working with. I'm like, here are the top 3 angles I would go. And under 30 seconds, 45 seconds. So I would take my cerebral calories and focus on the how of like, this is the bag that I have to work with. How do I do it? Because it's really, in strong hook and problem personalization, there's more value beyond just the pattern interrupt. But light hook, it's just a pattern interrupt. Of most reps aren't personalizing. You're one of the few reps that are, so it gets their eyeballs.
This is my weird segue, but to our next topic. But I was just thinking of Mel Brooks's History of the World, and at one point, he walks down with as Moses. He walks down with the 15 no 10 commandments. So we had the five buckets, no 3 types. So I love that you're streamlining this. All right. Well, we promised you guys 3 things. So we talked about those 3 types of hooks. Now we're going to move on to the next rapid fire topic here, which is ego states and pattern interrupts. So how can reps use that to increase their reply rates?
Yeah, so Eric Byrne did a lot of research. He's known as the father of transactional analysis, and he wrote a book called Games People Play, if anyone wants to read it. But essentially, he uncovered there are 3 ego states in your body, and this is anyone's body: parent, adult, and child. Parent is based off of the behaviors and actions that you noticed from your parental figures or authoritative figures when you were growing up. Adult is a pragmatic here and now and very observational, bereft of emotion. And child is based off of the behaviors, thoughts, and feelings of you as a child. And within parent, there are 2 sub-ego states: controlling, that seeks compliance, of like enforces curfews, enforces deadlines, and nurturing, that seeks to create a safe environment for all. And then child, adult only has 1. And child has 2 sub-ego states: natural and adaptive. Natural being very emotive, creative, spontaneous. Impulse purchases are all made there. Desire is based in the child ego state. And then you have adaptive, which is basically the rebellious side, because they are seeking a secure environment that was created by a parent ego state. But when it's not there, it gets frustrated and rebels. Right? So how you can use this in your outreach, and this expands, we could probably go for two hours on this, but when you command they all align to an opposing ego state. So controlling to adaptive and nurturing to natural. So if I say controlling, do not push this button, Shelly, who's listening, the first thing that she likely wants to do, I'm going to have y'all jump in the chat and guess. If I say, do not push this button, what's the first thing that you now want to do? Bingo, Michaela already got it, of like, push the button. And it's because I was in parent controlling and I flipped you into child adaptive. So you want to rebel against whatever I said. So in terms of outreach, if I say, let me know what time works for you, if it's a command, deep down, there's psychology. If I say, be there at 3, Jeremy, then all of a sudden, deep down, he wants to say, I'm going to do it maybe because I'm professional, but I don't want to do it because of the tone.
There was some research that was put out on like, is it better to say, are you free next Tuesday at 2 p.m. as a question, or let's meet next Tuesday at 2 p.m., or is there a time that works for you? Like how do these ego states affect the decision of how to frame that call to action?
Yeah, so they're all always going to, I stay away from any kind of command in general, because unless, I try and stay away from any command in general, especially from the prospecting perspective. So I think about this a lot of like the let's meet, you're flipping into an authoritative perspective. Now on the other side, if I were to go into parent nurturing and I were to say, oh, Jeremy, bless your heart, sweetie, it's okay. How are you feeling right now?
Much calmer, right? Yeah.
You're feeling
I'm in child mode.
But so you're feeling calmer. If I were to say, if I were to out of the blue say, yeah, Bingo.
Oh, if I didn't, it depends on whether I know, right. If I didn't know you, absolutely, as Rory said, it's condescending. If I knew you, it would be different because I guess I felt calmed because I know you and we chat so often. But yeah,
Totally. So
but if a rep did that to me, I'd like, what are you doing?
Totally. So if it's because you're flipping into parent nurturing, which forces them into child natural, and they don't like it because all of a sudden they feel like a little kid, so it's condescending to them. So most of the pattern interrupts that I'm doing, I'm pattern interrupting out of two things. Number one, I'm interrupting out of the sales mentality that I am a salesperson and they are a buyer. And so you go ahead.
So don't do the, hey, am I catching you at a good time or am I catching you at a bad time? Like both of those are bad because everyone knows that you're a salesperson at that moment.
Right. And they're in child ego state. So it's like a twofer.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm interrupting is that I'm a salesperson and they are a buyer. And we'll go into that. We can double click on that. And the second thing I'm interrupting is out of child ego state or parent ego state, whichever one I'm in, into adult ego state. And we can go into a couple examples of that. But those are the two patterns that I'm interrupting in my outreach. So the first one is easy, and I'm going to make everyone jump in the chat. We have quite a few people in here. So for email, I want you all to go into the chat and just say the typical things that salespeople say in emails. So Jeremy, why don't you lead?
What does a salesperson say in an email?
Yeah. At any part, the first
one, credit to another person who's as brilliant as you are, who says the reason for this email is, right. Like that's a leading line they often do. They also say, hey, we're working with XYZ companies, right?
Totally. Look at this. Just following up. Just checking. Y'all are brilliant.
Hope you're doing well. Yeah.
Hope this finds you well. Wanted to reach out. Just wanted to reach out. I hope you're doing well. Happy Wednesday. Following up. Unprecedented times. Bumping this to the top of your inbox. How about a quick chat for 15 minutes? The problem with all of this is now I'm going to make y'all go into look at all of this. This is viral.
It's exploding. I love it.
They're killing it. So it's like, okay, now I'm going to make you go into the chat and transition. What are salespeople known for? Like from a character perspective. How are we seen? There we go. Kyle already got it. Pushy, annoying, salesy, selfish, snake oil, overly persistent. Agenda driven.
Absolutely.
The minute you're using any of the previous language of just checking in, you are the typical salesperson, which means you are being associated with all the terrible things that we just listed below.
So that's what not to do. We got like in the 2-minute, because I want to get to the last thing around the objection matrix, because I think that's so valuable as well. What's like 1 or 2 key takeaways on things that people can do so they don't come off that way?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would do is I would take this list if I were anyone watching and I would download it and I would say like, what are the 5 characteristics of salespeople and how can I prove to my prospect that I'm not that? So let's start with a tactical one. The first thing that salespeople are known for is blasting emails into oblivion where they don't know their buyer and they essentially don't care and they're just looking for the quick sale. So the antithesis to it is personalization, knowing something about the person and making the conversation about them as opposed to about me and my software. And like Jeremy mentioned, we're the best, we're number one, we're awesome because we work with these companies, we help because we're the savior, we're awesome, we're awesome, we're awesome. And the defense of it usually is like, well, Beck, that shows confidence. And I'm like, talking well about yourself does not show confidence. It actually shows the opposite.
Yeah, listening shows confidence, absolutely. I was also just thinking when people prospect me, what stuff comes off as not salesy. For me, it's right to your point. I love data. I love content. So if someone sends me like a state of sales report that Salesforce or somebody else did, right, I'm going to gobble that up. So like send me stuff that I care about, and where the thing that you sent me doesn't necessarily help make me buy your company's product. It makes me trust you first.
My gosh, I just got goosebumps. That was the second one I was going to cover. Full disclosure is I feel like, to your point, what you're combating at that point is they think that you'll always be closing, and they think that you'll only give value whenever it means something beneficial to you because you're a salesperson. So like Jeremy mentioned, if I had to break down why your approach is working, it's because they're used to salespeople who only show up when there's money in it for them, and they only want to talk well about themselves. And instead of doing that, Jeremy, you're having the character to say, like, hey, I want to help you regardless. I want to help you, like, send over some content and not, oh my gosh, ask for anything. No need to respond. Here's an article,
To tie this one off, we got an awesome question now, which is, would you still send value to a client even though they bought from someone else? I haven't. Yeah. Hell yeah, right?
Hell yes. Hell yes. I have quote unquote taken, and this wasn't my goal, but I have taken 6 competitive deals that were marquee deals by getting on the line with that client who is using my competitor and teaching them how to use my competitor better for 15 minutes. Like, this is off, this is off, this is off. And in their mind, they're like, why the heck didn't the platform teach me how to do this? And they view you as like, it's the most jarring experience. So absolutely, people can tell who you are when you don't give them what they want. So I'd say this is a great time for you to show value and show them who you are. And I think that you guys do a great job of this. I've seen you do this in instances of like that you're still a great person and you still send over value even when they don't give you what you want.
You don't knock out a competitor on 3 months before the deal or 2 months before the deal or 1 month before the renewal, I should say. You knock them out a year before, 2 years before. It is a long, right? You need to show that you're invested. All right, I promised 3 things. We have only 2 minutes left, so I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to try. So, 2 minutes. What is the objection matrix, and how do people use that to increase their reply rates?
Okay, I'm going to be as quick as I can. There are 2 questions I would wonder about any objections. Is it real or shallow? Is it valid or invalid? Real being defined as the prospect believes it. It's an actual objection. Shallow being defined as it's just a blow off. And that can send me an email, running into a meeting. In a meeting, I took this call because I thought you were somebody else. No budget, no time, not interested. Like, they're all the same. And then valid being defined as it's correct, and invalid being defined as it's incorrect. So a objection can be real, meaning they believe it, but be invalid, meaning it's incorrect. An example being, if someone was trying to sell SalesLoft and I said, no, we're all good, we're using Salesforce. It's like, that's not really our competitor.
They're complementary, absolutely. Since you did that lightning round, so any blow off is invalid, period, right? Like, too busy, no budget, whatever.
Invalid. And you can read the room. You can tell when it's shallow.
And how should you respond? Like, what if you get that objection? Hey, like, I'm too busy. The invalid ones, like, how do you respond to those?
So the shallow objections, and I'll give you the format as quickly as I can so we can sum up in 2 minutes. The shallow objections, I would counter by saying, hey, I would do a pattern interrupt, off-record pattern interrupt. Can I level with you? Can I be real with you? Can we time out? I've been hearing blank send me an email a lot recently, and I get the feeling it's your polite way of saying, go away, you annoying sales rep. I never want to talk to you. Did I get that right? They'll say either yes or no. If they say, no, I really want you to send me an email, it was a real objection, and I'd follow their word. But if they say, you got me, which is going to be the majority of the time, I'd say, no problem. I do it all the time. I'd enter an empathy zone, and then I'd hit them with a prospect pack that says, how about this? You give me the next 20 seconds to give me my best dog and pony show on who we are and why I thought we might be a fit. At the end of that 20 seconds, you can tell me whether it makes sense to continue to talk from there. But you're awesome. Interrupting out of the child ego state into the adult ego state in the first one. I think that's all we have time for because Pete's on camera.
I see the hook. Pete's here with the hook. Thank you so much, Beck. I learned a ton, and I know for folks, go to her site, flipthescript.co, for 35 hours of awesome content. So
35 hours.
135 hours. That is awesome.
Jeremy, I had so much fun. Thank you.
Always a blast.
You guys were absolutely amazing. Give a quick round of applause for Beck and Jeremy. as truly it's never a dull moment with either one of you two. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone got a ton from it. Make sure to check out Beck and of course on Sales Loft with Jeremy as well. Thank you both so much.
Check out Jeremy. Jeremy's the data guru. You have got to follow. If you're not following Jeremy and you're in sales, you I don't know what you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Follow Jeremy.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.